Empire begins, the rebels are hiding on a frozen wasteland. Han and Leia have unresolved chemistry. 3PO is still complaining about everything. And the Millennium Falcon is junkier than ever. Even though the rebels blew up the Death Star at the end of A New Hope, the Empire still runs the galaxy with an iron fist, or whatever metal alloy Vader's hand is made of. Having learned Luke's last name, Vader goes full-on stalker mode, personally tracking the rebels across the galaxy.
The rebels are there, and I'm sure Skywalker is with them.
In the first act, Luke and the rebels are trying to regroup their forces on their new secret base. Meanwhile, Han wants to pay off his debt to Jabba the Hutt.
A death march, not an easy thing to live with.
Everything seems to be going well enough until Luke decides to investigate a meteor and is attacked by the abominable snowman. Luke wakes up just before he's about to be eaten alive. Demonstrating some fancy new Jedi skills, he manages to dismember the beast and escape. Shortly before succumbing to hypothermia, Luke receives a forcegram from Obi-Wan instructing him to go to Dagobah and link up with the great Jedi Master Yoda. It would seem there is once again a great change coming to young Skywalker's life. At the Act 1 turning point, the rebels discover Luke's meteor is actually an Imperial probe droid and soon realize that their super secret new base isn't so secret anymore. When the Empire strikes, the rebel forces scatter like roaches. Han and Leia are forced to leave together on the Falcon, and Luke too evacuates. He is now faced with the choice to either A. take the reasonable course of action and regroup with the rebels as they all probably planned ahead of time, or B.
follow old Obi-Wan on some damn fool idealistic crusade.
We're not going to regroup with the others.
With this choice, Luke assumes the new role of a Jedi Padawan. Meanwhile, Han and Leia also assume a new role as fugitives from the Empire, taking them into the second act. In Act 2, Luke arrives at Dagobah, the Alabama of the galaxy. His trip to this strange planet serves as his unfamiliar situation.
If you're saying coming here was a bad idea, I'm beginning to agree with you.
Luke's goal in Act 2 is to find the great Jedi Master Yoda, who's presumably 7 feet tall and all made of muscle. Then maybe he can properly learn the Force and avenge his dad's murder at the hands of Vader. The opposition Luke faces to his Act 2 goal is incidental. Nobody shoots down his X-Wing to crash it into the swamp. The swamp monster doesn't try to eat R2 to stop him from helping Luke find Yoda. And the annoying little puppet thing is just trying to have some fun after living in isolation for the past few decades. Meanwhile, Han and Leia struggle to adapt to their new role of being directly pursued by the Empire. Because the light speed isn't working, they must figure out an improvised plan to evade their pursuers. Their goal in this act is pretty straightforward.
I don't know how we're gonna get out of this one.
Although they take the wrong exit vector from Hoth, running into the Empire is an unfortunate coincidence. This incidental opposition continues when they inadvertently come across an asteroid field and attempt to use it as a means of shaking their tail. The broken hyperdrive and the problems it causes also serves as their Act 2 turning point catalyst, the reality check. Meanwhile, Luke's reality check comes when he crashes his ship on Dagobah and realizes the planet is a big slimy mudhole. Beginning to think it was a mistake to come to Dagobah, he meets an annoying local who says he knows where to find Yoda. This brings Luke to the Act 2 turning point, the commitment. Having had his fun, the little puppet finally reveals his true identity to Luke. Before Yoda agrees to train him, he demands an explicit commitment from Luke to dedicate himself to the training.
Jedi must have the deepest commitment.
At this point, Luke fully commits himself to his new role as Yoda's pupil, bringing him into Act 3. In the third act, the character stumbles into the central conflict of the story. For Luke, this conflict is with Vader and the dark side of the Force. It's in this act that Luke begins to contemplate a confrontation with Vader and is warned of the seductive nature of the dark side. Han and Leia also face conflict from Vader, inadvertently stumbling into his trap when they visit Han's buddy Lando at Cloud City. While Han and Leia want to get their hyperdrive fixed, Luke attempts to learn the ways of the Force from Master Yoda. Yoda's training is intentionally designed to test Luke's abilities, as well as his commitment to becoming a Jedi.
There is no why. Nothing more will I teach you today.
Also in this act, Vader captures Han and Leia with the intention of using them as bait to lure Luke to Cloud City. While training on Dagobah, Luke has a vision of Han and Leia being captured and tortured by the Empire. When Yoda tells him it's a vision of the future, Luke is torn between staying and finishing his training or rocketing off to rescue his friends. Even though Han manages to outsmart the Imperial Star Destroyers with his garbage trick, he doesn't fool Boba Fett, who tracks them to Cloud City. When they arrive, Lando reveals his treachery by bringing Han and Leia to Sunday brunch with Lord Vader. The duo is quickly apprehended, bringing us to the Act 3 turning point, the moment of truth. Despite knowing it's a trap, Luke wants to save his friends. Even Obi-Wan shows up to talk him out of it, realizing Luke is the one the Emperor wants. Against the protest of Yoda and Obi-Wan, Luke makes the decision to travel to Cloud City and save his friends. This decision brings him into the fourth act. In Act 4, Luke rockets off to Cloud City to rescue Han and Leia from the clutches of the Empire. Because the character's plan in this act is destined to fail, Luke's rescue attempt serves as his doomed plan. The opposition Luke faces to his Act 4 goal is self-inflicted. If he would have listened to Yoda and Obi-Wan and stayed on Dagobah, he wouldn't face it. By willingly seeking out a confrontation with the Empire, Luke creates the opposition he now faces. Similarly, if Han would have listened to Leia's intuition about Lando, they wouldn't face the opposition they experience at the hands of Vader in this act. Not wanting the carbon freezer to unintentionally kill Luke, Vader decides to try it out on Han. The gravity of the situation leads Leia to finally confess her feelings for him. Although he survives the freezing process, Han is effectively turned into a statue and given to Boba Fett to be delivered to Jabba the Hutt. Shortly after Han is frozen, Luke arrives at Cloud City to save the day. Meanwhile, Lando implements his own plan to free Leia and save Han from the bounty hunter. But when Luke stumbles into Vader's trap, he walks into a one-on-one confrontation with Vader in Act 5. Although Although Luke came to Cloud City to rescue Han and Leia, this goal is quickly swept under the rug when he comes face to face with Darth Vader. Because it's been established that Vader is pretty much the baddest dude in the galaxy, Luke's attempt to best him in lightsaber combat is the long shot of Act 5. Not only has Luke never been in a lightsaber duel, he didn't even finish the Jedi training he committed himself to at the end of the second act. In battling Vader, Luke now faces the strongest opposition he has faced in the film. Because he is outmatched, Luke quickly comes to the Act 5 turning point catalyst: all is lost.
All too easy.
Tiring of toying with Luke, Vader demonstrates his superior skill with the Force by pummeling Luke with objects yanked from the walls. Against this onslaught, Luke is shown to be no match for the more experienced Vader. It now seems Luke has no chance of success. Because Empire is a tragic story, ending in the character's failure as opposed to his success, there is no traditional moment of triumph for Luke in the film. Instead, despite Luke landing a few lucky blows, the fifth act culminates in Vader soundly defeating Luke, chopping off his hand, and revealing possibly the greatest plot twist bombshell in movie history. Luke does manage to escape Vader by throwing himself into the reactor shaft and being spat out beneath the city. Dangling from an antenna, he force dials Leia, and she and Lando promptly turn around to rescue him before fleeing the Empire. This complete failure of his plan brings Luke and his friends into the new situation of the final act. In their new situation, Luke and his friends are worse off than when the story began. He and Leia regroup with the rebels, who are now homeless. Having lost his mining business in a hostile takeover by the Empire, Lando has joined the Alliance and sets off to help Chewie rescue Han from Jabba the Hutt on Tatooine. Meanwhile, Luke gets a fancy new robot hand like his dad, and he and Leia ponder their future. Now the stage is officially set for the final confrontation between the Rebels and the Empire in Return of the Jedi. To learn more about 6-Act Structure, pick up your copy of Actions and Goals, The Story Structure Secret, on sale now, or visit 6actstructure.com for more film and novel breakdowns. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, or leave a comment below.